Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota Podcast. My name is Mpho Tim. I've got Tim Delace with me. It's been an action-packed week of cricket, and this is what our podcast does. We talk about South African cricket, all things in South African cricket, and we'll be doing that in the show today. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube at the Full Quota. If you are watching us on YouTube at One World Sports Radio, please do like and subscribe. And if you're listening to us on the audio platform, please do the same. Follow us at Full Quota Podcast on Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts, and share widely. Let's grow this space. Let's get this going. Let the conversation going, right? Lots of interesting conversations happening around South African cricket that we're going to talk about. A bit of the IPL to start off with. That disappointing performance from the South African team that was at the African Games that turned into the University of South African team in a couple of days. Poor George van Heerden, because he thought he had an international T20 century and now he's just got a century. So before we do anything else, Tim, how are you doing?
All good, mate. All good. Happy to be here. Happy to be back in the podcast world.
Yeah. No, so obviously the show will be talking CSA T20, as the strapline says. Warriors is just unbeaten. They're just running with it. But we've got some interesting news on Division 2 and what's going to happen there and the permutations on promotion, because we may have an answer for you. We've been very coy about it, but now we have an official answer for you. And so we're going to talk about that as we go along. But the most important thing is what's happening this week. One of the couple of things that are happening this week, the Proteas women are gearing themselves up for the Sri Lanka series. So that's going to happen at the back end of this week and the start of next week. They're going to be playing 3 T20s, 3 ODIs against Sri Lanka. The team has assembled. Some of the senior players who are playing in the WIPL will be joining the squad as well, slightly late, but that should be happening earlier this week. So a little bit of something to look forward to from an international perspective. The University of South Africa cricket team now, as they're called, started off really well, putting Ghana away, but then realized very quickly that other nations at the African Games brought forward a very strong team. Collins Abuya, who's been playing since 1999. Oh my word, I'm so old. Actually, I'm so not old. He's old. I'm young. I'm a child. I was 9 when he made his debut. I was actually 8 when he made his debut. So he retired after Kenya finished in the bronze medal game, winning that one. But Zimbabwe's men won again in the final. So Zimbabwe got 2 gold medals. But my question, Tim, is obviously this is new to the African Games, the first time they had cricket. Could we not have taken the team that went to New Zealand and said, guys, go play there?
In theory, we could have. But I think, what's the priority? I look at this in the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I'm not that disappointed in terms of the results. What is important for me is the guys got a lot of good experience against individuals who have genuine World Cup experience. So they would have learned a heck of a lot. Somebody like George van Heerden, who I think is going to be a domestic cricketer, a seasoned professional in the years to come. Yeah. I think his ceiling is very high. So somebody like him, he would have been delighted to have got that 100. He would have liked it to have obviously been as an international. But look, he got 100 against what you would consider a very good side. So I think in terms of the lessons learned for a young side, I think going forward, that's much more impressive than us potentially winning the trophy.
Yeah. And I think it's more of a lessons learned and trying to figure out that we plan properly for it. I would love to have some senior players in there, just to bolster the squad up. But yeah, with all the domestic T20 going on, I don't think that would have been possible. But look, we had a fight over the designation over the years because People are worried that caps are being taken away and given away freely. But this is going to be a tournament where caps will be given away freely. But it's also an opportunity for us to bring a team forward into African cricket and contribute to the development of African cricket. Now, I know Namibia didn't send a full strength squad, nor did Zimbabwe, but you kind of give a sense that those nations and the nations that were ahead of us are slightly ahead of us in terms of what their emerging sides look like. And I know this isn't a full emerging side, this is an emerging side of university students. So we take that with a pinch of salt, but it would really be lovely to see us put up a stronger emerging side just to compete against the Zimbabwe's and the Namibias of the world and hopefully get a medal at the next edition of these games. Okay. Tim, I know you don't watch the IPL, but were you watching this weekend?
I watched sporadically. I've
Okay.
made a new resolution. If a South African is involved and I've got nothing else to do, then I will watch him.
So you're watching all the
I
games
think
essentially.
I, well, parts of them. Let's say parts. As soon as
Yeah.
somebody's finished their 4 overs, then I go and do something else.
Or
No, but jokes aside, I think we did well as a whole, our boys, and that's what we wanted. We wanted more exposure. I think that
yeah.
that more exposure from the SA20 has been very clear to see. I mean, people will laugh, but I actually momentarily forgot that
Mm-hmm.
Nandre Berger was playing in the IPL. Now,
Yeah, same.
without without SA20, he would not be playing. I firmly
Yeah.
believe without his performance at SA20, he would not be playing this year's IPL. So that
Yeah.
really is a case of how why SA20 is important. And look, it is the best T20 league in the world. It is important. Uh,
And you want a
by
lot of your guys going there, right? And
exactly.
I look I look
I
at
wanted to go there. Yeah.
yeah, and obviously Nandre Berger, there's been some not Nandre Berger, Arnold Nokia, the Daily Capitals now showing images of him with the squad there. He had the birth of his daughter earlier this week. So the Warriors lost his Daily Capitals gain. But if you think about it, I don't think there's another team in the world that has um, four frontline seamers playing in the IPL. And I'm assuming Nandre is going to start. Anuk Nokia is going to start soon. So you have Kutsia, who played for Mumbai. You had Kagiso, who played for Punjab. You had Gerald. No, obviously I spoke my Gerald. You have Nandre, who came on as an impact player for Rajasthan. And you also have Anuk Nokia, who's there. And on top of that, you've got the batters. Devil Brevis made a lovely 48. That was really nice as an impact player. You also had Faf to start off the tournament, a young, lovely 33, the mid 30s number there. Um, the others were disappointing. Miller didn't get much. Quinney didn't get much. Aiden Markram put up some runs, but a lot of people are getting frustrated because he's throwing wickets away. Surprise, surprise. But I'm not going to enter that. He's actually done well over the last 2 years. But for me, it was watching Heiner Klaassen. Oh, yeah, Marco Jansen as well. So we've got five, actually. Five bowlers, by the way. It's ridiculous. The amount of talent we have. But I look at Heiner Klaassen and I sit there going, he is the most valuable cricketer in world T20 cricketer in the world right now. There is no target too large for a team that has Heiner Klaassen in. The team the Sunrisers played the other day, I don't know what it was. I think it was Gujarat. I don't know.
Yes.
They set them 202, 205. And in any T20 game, it's a mean feat. And it looked as though Sunrisers were trying to get there, but they were losing wickets in inopportune moments. And then, but the thing is, you've got this man behind you. And sorry, it takes me back to Vian Mulder's press conference, I think, at SA20, where he said, when you've got Classy, you just need to make sure that Classy gets enough balls. And you know that even if you've got Classy and things are falling apart, as long as Classy's not out, you have a chance. And Klaassen gave them a chance. From a place where they didn't need a chance, they weren't going to get a chance, gave them a chance. There's a point they were 39. They needed 39 of 12 balls. They got them down to, was it 7 off of 3? And it somehow ended up, obviously, that game. It was KKR, a bigger part. KKR winning that
It's like
game
kicker.
with wickets, getting Klaasen out, and then you had like you still had a chance because you still had like Pat Cummins coming in, you had Marco Janssen coming in, but obviously they had to hit a six off the first ball, which didn't make, which was highly unlikely. But I look at that and I'm like, and I'm going to ask you this, Tim. Looking at the T20 World Cup, what are South Africa's chances with Heino Klaasen in the team?
The problem with this is we've been saying this for the last 3 World Cups. I would suggest that it's gone from possible, must make the final, to now going probably our best. It's probably our best 15. If you
Ever
really think about it, if you nail it down, yeah. If you nail
in the
it down
history
and
of
you think,
T20s, yeah.
if you look at
Are
it,
we better than
uh,
India?
we when we had somebody like AB, we didn't have a we had a good 15, but we didn't have quite the arsenal that we have now in terms of the bowling department. So we had him once in a generation cricketer, but we didn't quite have the support that he needed. Now I really think look, lots of teams. So there's about 6 teams that can win the World Cup, but we absolutely can. And I do believe, I do believe that I don't think there's a more impactful batter in this format than Heinrich Klaasen right now. I really don't. And if there is, it is minuscule. It is a fine, fine margins. Um,
Yeah.
he really is right up there with the tops of the games. If you give, for example, if you give me a choice between Maxwell and Klaasen, I choose Klaasen every single day of the week, and
Yeah.
and on the 8th day of the week, I'm
On
picking
the eighth
Klaasen
day of the week. I
every
like that.
single time. I'm
And
I'm
and and
picking Klaasen.
and the thing I say this is that T20 World Cups are one off the back of individual performances, very strong individuals, putting their team over the line, putting the team on the back. We have Heiner Klaasen, but he doesn't have to save this team all the time. It's not like Durban Super Giants or where he literally got them back into the final, right? They lost the final, but he did everything to get them there. He just needed help around him. I think in this Protea setup, he will have the world class players around him. We've got Aiden Markram, who's he's in a sensational spot of form. David Miller can always bring it back. You know, my assumption is Quinton's going to America, so that's another guy who was also in one of the T20 tournaments. Everyone's looking to him, and he was like, "Well, what do you guys expect from me?" On top of that, you've got the bowlers, right? You've got a bowling arsenal of Berger, Kutsia, Nokia, Rabada, and possibly even Kwena Mapaka, who's now back there in the IPL. Well done, Kwena. Hope you're studying and learning a lot on both ends, academically and on the cricket field. And obviously, you got the spin bowlers, Keshav and Tabrez, who can put up their bargain. For me, I'm sitting there going, if I have the best player in the world, surely supported by guys who are possibly some of them in the top 20 batters in the world. Surely, I know AB was the best player in the world at many T20 World Cups, but he never had batters who were in the top 20 in the world. And so I sit there going, is this another case every time I watch the IPL, every time I watch Heino Klaasen, for me to say, guys, in a couple of months' time, well, in a month and a half's time, we could be lifting this trophy. And all because of this man who somehow has the timing of a god. He doesn't want to hit the ball hard. You can bowl whatever you want to bowl, but he scares bowlers to the point where bowlers are hoping he makes the mistake instead of them trying to put the ball in the right areas. Slow ball he puts away. So wide one. There's a wide ball that he literally hits on the up to cover, extra cover for 6. And you're sitting there going, what man is this? The only question is, can he do this wearing green and gold? And that's my only question for him is if he can and he can continue this form for the next 2 months, there's a massive, massive chance to win that final. And that's all I need. And then from then on, we'll just let everything else fall as it may. But yeah, Heinrich is giving me hope. And that's the problem about the
Yeah.
IPL. Every time I watch these South Africans, I'm like, oh. Like even Nandre Spell, I'm like, oh, we've got this. Oh, man. But Joe Coetzee bowled really well. As well for Mumbai. He's looking good. And as you always say, Tim, pace is pace is pace. Now we've got 5 fast bowlers, Tim. 5. We have 5 fast bowlers. That's ridiculous. But anyway,
We don't have a shortage. That's for sure.
yeah. Yeah. So that's it. Okay. Let's look at the CSA T20. We're gonna start not CSA T20. The T20 competitions. We're gonna start with the results of Division 2. If you look at that, Easterns lost last week, first game of the week last week after we played. It was actually during the game, actually. Easterns lost. They put up 122 against the Knights. They lost by 6 wickets. Simtembi Lelanga, 3 for 14. Gian Kluter, 73 or 48. He's really having a great time at um, at the Knights. He's really, really on the comeback, trying to find his way back. Remember, he got a Protea cap as in a T20 game, but never looked up since then. Um, Bumalanga Rhinos scored 176 for 3 against the Garden Route Badgers, but they lost. It wasn't enough. Garden Route Badgers got to 177 for 3. They won by 7 wickets. Benjamin van Niekerk, 46 of 23. Matthew Christensen
Christensen.
got 57 of 39. And Jean Duplessis back in the runs, 52 of 38. Good to see the Badgers getting their first win. And then Northern Cape Heat played against the Linyati from Border. They put up 187 for 3. The Linyati could only get to 175 for 9. Ernest Kemp, 72 for 54. Remember, we've had him on the podcast. And Jonathan Vandier, who some of us were not saying was great, 48 of 33. He's reminding us that he still has it somewhere. Limpopo then went on to play the Easterns. They scored 140 for 6, but they beat Easterns by 16 runs. The Easterns bowled out for 124. Don Khatebe, 3 for 20. Eldred Hawken, 2 of 19. Don Khatebe is having a really great season in Limpopo. Really, really great stuff that's happening out there. And then the Knights putting up 168 for 7 against the Rhinos from Bumalanga, who were bowled out for 97. Tian van Vieren, 42 of 22. Aubrey Swanepoel, 35 of 22. And Mpungose, 4 for 26. So those are the results of the Division 2. Any results stood out for you? Any other innings that stood out for you in these 5, Tim?
No, just that the fact that the results did have a uh, deciding factor on who will be in Division 1 next season.
Yes.
Um,
And let's look at that.
That's the only real
Yeah.
talking point from Division 2.
So the most important thing is that Knights game against Mpumalanga effectively ensured that, looking at the table to our audio listeners, the Knights are at the top with 18 points. Impala's second with 18 points as well. The Heat are third with 13 points. The Storm fourth with 9. Linyati fifth with 8 points. Rhinos fifth with 6 points. And the Garden Route Badgers last with 4 points. What that meant, that match against the Mpumalanga Rhinos for the Knights, meant that they secured promotion into Division 1. They needed to finish fourth or lower, with the hopes that Northern Cape Heat would get to the top of the log. What's subsequently happened since then is that Northern Cape still have a chance of finishing first, if they beat the Heat. The Northern Cape Heat have a chance of finishing first if they beat the Knights by a bonus point. With a net run rate that favors them, they could go top, with hoping the Impalas lose this week as well. What's happened is that the Knights can't go below 4. You look there, the Eastern Storm have finished their tournament with 9 points, a really disappointing tournament for them. And there's no way that the Knights can go below there. So nobody can catch them, which means that the Knights are back in Division 1 at the end of it. And this is the first time you're hearing of it here, on the Full Quota podcast. So we now know who's going up. Now we just need to figure out who's going down. And those teams have won games this weekend, funny enough. But Tim, what do you make of that night's promotion being secured right now?
I just hope that they have been watching what's been happening with the Tuskers
Mm-hmm.
throughout the season. Not the off-field stuff, because I think actually the off-field situation at the Knights I think is pretty solid. But in terms of the personnel, uh, the Tuskers made some mistakes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I at the time thought they made shrewd signings, but they've got to get in a position where they can get
Yeah.
20 wickets in this division. And at the moment, I like their players, but at the moment they don't have enough to get 20 wickets on a consistent basis. And until they do that, they will just be where
Mm.
the Tuskers are right now. They've got a decent top six, who I think will score runs across formats. The
Yeah.
issue there is going to be the bowling.
Yeah, and also try to keep that young core. They've done them well, so just keep at it. But you do need fast bowling, and you need a way to take 20 wickets. So that's it. To surround out Division Two, some of the fixtures to close out. We've got one more round left before we go into semi-finals and finals. Week, which is next week on the 3rd. The first semi-finals on the 3rd, seconds on the 4th, and the finals next weekend. The Linyati from Eastern Cape will play the Mpumalanga Rhinos in East London on Wednesday. The Northern Cape Heat will play the Knights. Remember the game I told you about? Here it is. So if the Knights win, they make it. If the Heat win, they make it into the final. If the with a bonus point, they make it into the final. But obviously, that's depending on what the Impalas do in the next game. The Knights win, they secure one effectively, and they go into that into that semi-final hosting. And then you have the Impalas as well, who would want to get into the one into a home semi-final. And I think they've secured that really well. Obviously, depending on what happens in the Northern Cape Heat game against the Knights, but they're playing the Badgers in Polokwane on Wednesday. So we've got 3 more games left. Then we go into the semi-finals, top 4, and then we go into the final. So just show you the table once more. The top 4 currently are the Eastern Storm, who could be usurped by either the Rhinos or the Badgers or the Linyati, depending on how they win. The Badgers need to win by a bonus point. The Rhinos just need a win, and Linyati also just need a win. The Storm are just holding on to that 4th spot for dear life. On the other side, you've got the Northern Cape Heat in 3rd, Impalas in 2nd, and the ITEC Knights. So the semi-finals, as it stands now, and I think it might end up like this, it might be the Knights taking on the Eastern Storm in Bloem, and then Impalas taking on the Northern Cape Heat in Polokwane if all the matches follow this pattern. So we'll be giving you what the semi-finals will be next week once these games are finished on the other side of the Easter weekend, probably on Tuesday because Monday's family day. Cool. So that's Division 2. Exciting end to it. They only had single leg games. They didn't have a double legger like the men's. But let's look like the Division 1. Division 1 results happened this week. A lot has happened this week. The Dolphins grabbing a couple of grabbing 1 win and 1 loss this week. Dolphins played the Titans on last week Wednesday. Bryce Parsons went on to score 102 not out of 48 balls. Really excited for him. John Smart 61 not out of 33. They said 183 for 1. The Titans could only get to 152, so the Dolphins won by 31 runs. Ogutlekela taking 2 for 40 there. Really great game for Parsons. He really stepped up, and he might be having some sort of a breakthrough type of season here in the CSA T20 2024. Next game was the Western Province taking on the Warriors. The Warriors winning that by 8 wickets. Province only managing to get to 149 for 7. Warriors only also getting to 151 and winning by 8 wickets. Matthew Bretzko got 53 not out of 42 balls. Andile Mohakane, who used to play for the Tuskers, 48 off 34 balls. And Siasimetu took 2 for 15 for the Warriors. George Linda for Western Province, 46 off 38 balls. A lot of people like asking us about George Linda, so we thought we'd put that in there as well. The Paul Rocks took on the Dragons. I know it says the Lions won by 1 run, but the Dragons won by 7 wickets in that game. Apologies for that. Ruben Hammond's got 96 or 50, 96 not out of 56 balls. He's resuming his incredible form. Miguel Patoris took 4 for 14 in that game. with the ball, which is really good for the Proteas as well. From a Rob Walters to see Miguel take wickets there. Frisco Adams, that middle to low order of the Rocks are keeping them in games. 50 off 39 balls. It was really really awesome. And then we went into the weekend of double headers. The first double header was at the Wanderers. The Titans hosted the Western Province at the Wanderers. That game ended in a tie. There was a lot of rain. Duckworth Lewis method. And Western Province managed to get to 138 for six. Titans hit 147 for seven. Province got to 138 for six, and the game was tied because on DLS, 138 was the number to get. They needed seven off the last. They needed to get to 147 off the last over, so they were they were on par with Duckworth Lewis. Unfortunately, the rain pushed them off. 80 more, 55 or 52 balls. Happy for the half century, not happy for the strike rate. David Bedingham, 49 of 32 balls, caused a bit of a stir on Twitter this week. I was catching strays because of Tim. Neil Brunton, 26 balls, and David Visa of the Titans, 4 of 20. I will talk about that, Tim. Don't worry. Next doubleheader was the Lions taking on the Tuskers, who were rock bottom. The Tuskers finally found a way to win a game. How? Keith Dudgeon. Keith Dudgeon took 4 wickets in an over, or in 2 over spell, and it put the Lions from no runs, 3 runs for no wicket, to 3 runs for 4 wickets, and it was just horrible watching after that. Via Mulder couldn't do much. He got 36 not out of 38 balls. But Cameron Delport reminded everybody against his former team. He scored 39 off 28 balls to win by 8 wickets. Great win for the Tuskers. So then on Sunday, I sat there thinking, if the Tuskers win, can the Rocks win too? And the Rocks did just that. They won by 4 wickets. In Gqeberha, there was a second doubleheader. The Dolphins hosted the Rocks in Gqeberha, 158 for 4. But the Rocks managed to get 163 for 6. That lower middle order shaking again. Christian Jonker, 40 of 26. Frisco Adams, 33 of 23 balls. Sean van Berg, 26 of 16 for the Rocks. Marcus Ackerman, the only Dolphins player of note that did something in that game, he scored 50 off of 32 balls. Dolphins end up losing that one. Rocks winning that by 4 wickets. So there's no team that doesn't have a win in this tournament. Cool. Now here's the other one. We were like, can the Dragons beat the Warriors and make sure the Warriors don't become unbeaten? And the Warriors scoring 186 for 5 at home against the Dragons, who could only manage 162 all out for 9 and 20 overs. The Warriors winning by 24 runs. Snetemba Kleshile, remember that name? Yes, 51 of 30 balls. Patrick Kruger, 46 of 21. He's really good in that low middle order. Lisibangwepe tried for the Dragons. He scored 45 not out off 25 balls. But JP King gets himself on the stat sheet, 2 for 13. I know Bears Swanepoel also took 2 for 28 in that game. Interesting set of results. Tim, let's talk about this Bedingham issue that made me catch strays. Obviously, you said Bedingham must come into the side. You said you didn't want him to open, but him and Eddie Moore put on a partnership that kind of helped them tie the match. But what didn't you like about that? Because I loved Beddingham's free flowingness, but what was the reason behind you not wanting him to open?
Because of what happened subsequently in the innings. I remain convinced, because there's no guarantee, of course, because there's no guarantee, but in my opinion, Province would have lost that game if the rain had not come down. Province would not have scored those 7 runs in that last over. They were 113 for 3. They needed
9 runs to win.
34 runs of the last 5 overs.
Yeah.
And under 7 and over. It was a cakewalk, and they made it virtually impossible. That middle order really, really struggled. And I said to you before, this Province side, it relies too much at the top. So I still would, going forward, and it won't happen now, and I get it, and that's fine. But going forward, I would still have Bedingham in the middle order. So when you have that sort of collapse, he steadies the ship, and is then still able to score 8s and 9s and over if the situation is needed. But fair play to him. He made me look silly for a week. I'm happy for him That's absolutely fine. Um, I just think they were very lucky to get that tie rather than
Yeah.
anything else. That's my problem for the province side.
Yeah, look, that was the one, and I think the other thing that I'm looking at is, the other players are obviously in this week that have done well. The youngsters, Bryce Parsons, Ruben Hanman, putting up their hands. Bryce has had the potential at this level, at the T20 level, at age group level. SA under 19 captain, former SA 19 captain, but it just never came right for him. He never got the opportunities. Now he is getting opportunities at the top. He was, I think, last season he batted at six. Now he's there at the top and he's doing what he does best. He's one guy I would look to SA 20 to say that's the type of guy you need to pick. And he's putting a guy like Grant. He's putting a really interesting comparison with him and Grant Rulofsson, right? Because Grant was selected for SA 20, Bryce too at the end of last season for the Durban Super Giants, but Bryce never got an opportunity. Now he's getting that opportunity and he's showing the difference between him and a guy like a Grant, or even him and a guy like a Salo Advia, who was with the Sunrisers there. So it's a I like how Bryce is playing. So is Ruben Hanman coming out of Mpumalanga last season, now at Northwest, and putting down the runs. And that 100 wasn't a fluke. Now it's a 96 to add to that, and he's one of the reasons why Northwest are competitive, even though they're sitting quite low in that table.
That's what you want. If you cricket South Africa, you want youngsters to make a name for themselves, to put a statement down. Uh, I mean, you often get these sorts of quotes
Yeah.
after a SA 20 competition, but I think if you look at the way he's played, I think there's an element of truth in it. Bryce Parsons said, despite not playing, effectively, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, effectively, I learned so much from that tournament. Although I didn't
Yeah.
play, I learned a whole lot from the way the other guys went about it. And,
Mm.
and that those words are now being put into action in the way that he's playing. He's always been a he's always been a attacking batsman, always being one to try to attack. But he's now playing majority cricket shots. He's not overdoing it. I think there were times in
Yes.
previous seasons he was overdoing it. He felt that because of the lack of opportunities, he had to push harder than he needed to. There seems to be a freedom within him at the moment, and that's a challenge for him because he's got next door to him. He's got John, who we know's getting on a bit, but John's having
Yeah.
a time of his life. Both similar individuals, and Bryce is saying, you know what? As soon as you hang up your boots, it's my show. I'm gonna be the new boy in town in Durban. So I'm delighted for him. I really am because he isn't getting over the season as many opportunities as he would like. I would imagine. Um,
Yeah.
but when he is getting them, he is making it count. That is a huge plus for him. I'm really pleased, and for Ruben. You're right, Ruben as well. Uh, we knew he was a talented boy. I'm really glad that he's putting a statement down there at Northwest. I'm sure we will talk about it later on.
Yeah.
The comparisons between those two teams and the Rocks is startling, absolutely startling. When you look at who they are relying on.
No, true. And there's another team we need to talk about, and that's the Titans. The Titans are looking a shadow of the expectant selves, trophy expectant selves. The Titans always expect to be in and around trophies every season. This season they are so far away. I think they're bottom three on the log right now, and they've lost. They didn't get a win this week. Obviously, the game on Saturday was a tie, and they lost to the Dolphins. And my only question, obviously, is if anyone's asking, what's going on with the Titans? The batting lineup does not look great. And obviously you got the likes of Steve Stock on the bench. You kind of want to give him a chance somewhere along the line. Spinello Makanya is doing okayish, but everyone else is not putting their hand up. Neil Brunt kind of showed that he can play T20, but It's necessarily not enough. But I go back to the bowling. They've got Tabre Shamsi, which helps. They have Lazard Williams, which helps. But like, what's going wrong at the Titans, Tim?
It's a difficult one because as we when we sort of discussed the Pretoria Capitals SA 20, it's
Mm,
still, even with the losses, it still looks like a team that should win more games than it does. It looks like it covers all bases. Um, I think it's just a case of they're not getting enough from that top six. I don't think that top six is a bad top six. Um, I just don't think they're getting enough. Look, Neil Brandt, I think Neil Brandt is doing better than I thought. You can't
yeah.
sit there and say Neil Brandt's not performing. He's got 39 of 25 just the other day. If
Mm,
he's going to make it 39 of 25, you can't say to him, well, we're going to go with somebody else. He's doing the business. Um, I just think that they're not clicking. Maybe it's a case of the guys that are lost has taken away some of that clicking together that these guys
ah,
without these guys without the big name players do not play as well. The other
yeah.
thing is, any team, Division One team particularly, because they all have it, any Division One team is entitled to spend the money that they want to bring in whoever they want.
Mm.
It's well within their rights. I don't really understand David Visser inclusion for me. Um, if I'm gonna be picking the Titans side, I'm gonna be playing Jack
Didn't he take a
Elias.
clump of
Or
wickets over the weekend?
yes, look, he's always going to perform, but which is better, picking somebody who's at the twilight of his career, or picking
Mm-hmm.
a Steve Stark or Jack Elias who's at the start of their career, giving them the platform of this kind of a tournament to show them what is needed. I don't think they needed David Visa in this team. Uh, to me, I would be much happier going with a Jack Lees or a
Mm.
Steve Stock.
Yeah.
If you're gonna put them in the 15, I say play them for me.
Look, you want to win games, and they went to the guy that they trusted. It's not working, so let's see if this week they'll be able to try something else and give the youngsters a chance. I think it might just change something in it. But another team I want to talk about is the Warriors. Obviously, they're sitting on top, unbeaten after six. Um, I don't want to be like they're going to go unbeaten. T20 is fickle like that. But what are they getting right that everyone else isn't getting right? Because they already have a 10 point gap between one and two.
Everybody is performing. They are not relying on any one individual. Everyone in that team is performing.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Hammond scoring runs. Matthew Brzeski scoring runs. Kishila is now scoring runs. Marco Janssen was scoring runs when he was in the team, smashing the ball all over the field. Um, both the all-rounders, Kruger and Barra Swanepoel, are proving absolutely vital to their performances.
Yeah.
Uh, Simetu has been an absolute revelation, leading wicket taker of the tournament so far.
Yes. I've
Absolute
loved watching
revelation.
him bowl.
So there's six people. If you got six people in an 11, all performing at the highest level in a T20 format, when often it's just one or two guys in a particular game, you've got a winning combination. The
Oh,
only
similar to the
question is,
argument I have with South Africa at the World Cup. We're going to have more than six
yeah,
people performing.
the only
Okay.
question is, can they maintain this? That's the only question, because there's still a lot of games left
Mm.
in the Division One setup. Can they maintain it? That's all. But at the moment they are clicking and playing very good cricket.
That's awesome to hear. Okay, let's go to the table, and then we'll talk about the Tuskers and the Rocks because yeah, they're sitting there at the bottom, and yeah, well, they've won games, so that's great. So they're sitting there at 7 and 8. Rocks at the bottom. The Tuskers with a bonus point win. Well done to them against the Lions. So that's really nice. I really, yeah, Keith Dudgeon, well done. And with all the rain about and everything and the lightning stoppages, they did really well with that one. The Warriors sit on top with 27 points. The Lions are second with 17 points. Western Province are third with 16 points. The Dolphins are fourth with 15 points. The Dragons are fifth with 11 points, and the Titans are sixth with 11 points. Effectively, those six are going to be fighting for the semi-final spots. But remember, now we're going to the reverse fixture. So everyone's played everyone once. Okay, the Dolphins and the Dragons have played 7 games. They've played everyone once. They're going to go into reverse fixtures. But as we go into this next week, the reverse fixtures are going to start with teams playing each other again. But we're still halfway stage through the tournament, and this is essentially what it looks like. The Warriors are running away with this for now, and yeah, we have to get to 14 games, so 8 games to go. Things can happen. If they lose 3 in a row, they bring themselves back into the chase. So everyone's trying to catch them, and then and that's how the lay of the land goes. But it's not all she wrote for the Rocks and the Tuskers. They just need to get their ships going and get their games going. But it's going to be quite hard to get them going. But Tim, who do you think in the next week is going to? There's not a lot of games this week. I think there's about 3 games this week. But yeah, some teams need to pull up their socks. Other teams need to find a way to start chasing the Warriors.
Yeah, look, it's if I'm the other teams, other than Warriors, I'm not going to be too worried at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want them to run away with it. That's the only thing. You don't want them to completely run away with it. Um, I think everybody's doing as well, pretty well. It's been a good tournament all around.
Yeah,
Um, and even a team like the Tuskers, mathematically, they're still in it. They have not been
yeah,
relegated. Um, they are above the Vosks. They are above the Rocks, which is what they need to be.
mm-hmm.
They need to be above them a little bit more, but they got that win. So that will give them a boost. Um, I think I think the Lions are probably best placed to give a real competition to the Warriors at the moment. I
Yeah,
think if I'm thinking about all the teams, uh, Northwest I think are decently, but they've got to start winning games, and if they've been competitive, but now they've got to find a way to actually get over that line. Um,
yeah,
Province is still the same for me. I haven't learned anything from Province over the last couple of weeks that I didn't know at the beginning of the tournament. They will defend low totals. I don't know if they will get enough runs to
yeah.
get sizable totals. I have still asking that question, and we're sort of about halfway through the tournament.
Okay.
Who else? Well, we've discussed the Titans.
Yeah.
Titans will come good. It's just a matter
They'll
of
start
how
winning
good they
games.
will. Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the fixtures. Not a lot of fixtures this week coming in. It is Easter weekend, so we've only got 6 matches this week. The Tuskers are going to Cape Town to face Western Province at Newlands on Wednesday. Hopefully, they'll be both teams need a win, so it's going to be quite an interesting game. And if it's a low-scoring game, the Tuskers might be in it. So, with those batting woes that Western Province have, the Tuskers are on their way. The Lions take on the Warriors in a top of the table clash at the Wanderers. A big opportunity for the Lions to close the gap between them and the Warriors on Wednesday night. Then Western Province take on the Warriors on Sunday in the first of the doubleheader in Paul. That's also another chance for the province to close the gap between them and the Warriors. But also be interesting on a pitch that is slow to see how province can defend the low totals and maybe how their batting lineup adapts to that Warriors bowling lineup on that wicket. Then the Rocks take on the Lions in Paul. Slippery game for the Lions in Paul. Low and slow wicket with their bowling attack could prove quite tough. The Rocks can also be feisty. A team, and we've seen them do that in previous editions of this tournament. So it's going to be quite an interesting Sunday there. And then the second doubleheader will be on Family Day on Monday. The Tuskers will take on the Dolphins in Poch. First of a doubleheader. It's weird having a KZN derby in Potchefstroom, but we're going to do that. Tuskers, well, the Tuskers have no home, so they'll take any stadium they give them. And then the Dragons take on the Titans in a mid-table battle. And the Titans need a win. It's their only game of the week, so they'll be hoping to stop this two-game no-win streak and get a win against the Dragons. Whereas the Dragons would want to climb up the table on top of their northerly neighbors. Any games here that speak out to you, jump out to you as a game that you definitely want to watch?
So it's the Lions Province games that they've got this week. Both teams, because as we said, they Warriors need a chaser to make this a really competitive and enticing tournament. It needs a chaser. It doesn't need the number one team to just keep
Yeah.
dominating throughout the tournament. And it's really a make or break for the Tuskers. They could win one of those games. They could win that game at Poch, I think, because if those sorts of conditions will suit them. I think they could be competitive against Province, but I just think Province will have enough. But if the Rocks, not the Rocks, what am I talking about? If the Tuskers win one of their two games and the Rocks lose theirs, then it's job done for the Tuskers in this round of fixtures, and it just puts extra pressure on the Rocks. That's all the Tuskers can do. Is they can put pressure on the Rocks and say, it's not over. It is not over just yet.
Yeah, obviously those are the two teams fighting to stave off relegation. And if the Rocks can find a way to get up the log into sixth position and fifth position, Rocks or the Tuskers, if they can get themselves up the log, they then help themselves in the relegation case. And if you finish mid-table, it will really help you, because it's from getting 0 points or 1 point to effectively getting 5, which would effectively help you stay up in the season. So it's going to be quite interesting to see. Very interesting to see how those games go. And I hope the fans make it there. It was really disappointing to see double headers with no fans. Hopefully the fans can make it to the stadiums in this long weekend and do that as well. But I think that's a good place for us to close off the show, Tim. Remember, please do like, subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at FullQuotaPod. It's been going on the whole show, so please do follow us. We've gotten a whole lot of followers this week, so thank you very much. And then also follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you're an audio person. And send through comments, good or bad. We just love the engagement, and we appreciate the notes and everything else. Outside of that, Tim, thank you very much. It's goodbye from us, and see you next week. Lesale, kakahiso.